Hey, welcome back, everyone. I really appreciate each of you for taking the time to listen or watch these episodes. I hope that the information that I'm presenting, you're finding it helpful and informative. So let's get into round 14 of the tactical transition tips. This time, for the close range group, those of you who are in that year window, create a job search journal. For the medium range group, those of you who are, 3 to 5 years out, mentor your replacement. And for the long range group, those of you who've got a decade or more to go, have fun today.
When you transition out is try to model all of the good things, the discipline, the structure, that little bit of rigidity into your everyday life. And I think that that's a great way to make that transition happen, man.
Figuring out who you are, not what you did. It's not who you are. It's a piece, but it's not the whole you.
Take the time to invest in yourself because it means everything. That's what the difference is. The difference is not just to collect a check. It's to live 25 years, 30, 40 years after you retire and pay it forward that way.
So for the close range group, creating a job search journal. The process for applying and getting hired for a new job is going to be daunting in its own right. Creating a journal is not just about tracking the applications that you've sent out. It's about being focused and using a method of precision to find your next job. You're going to want to track, obviously, the applications that you've sent out. But I would also recommend tracking, if nothing more than a notation of how quickly the company responds back to you, either acknowledging your application, setting up the next interview, or letting you know, hey, sorry, we've reviewed your application and nothing's happened. But notating how quickly the company responds back to you is something that you're probably going to want to keep in the back of your head for a measure against other companies. In the sense, are they as prompt or are they slower? But you have a barometer to measure off of. You want to track your interviews, obviously, because you don't want to miss the interview. That's the simple side of it. In conjunction with that, though, track any feedback that you receive from the interviews. I'm assuming, or I'm not assuming, but I'm taking the assumption that you're going to be tracking interviews for positions that you didn't get. There is the likelihood that you may do multiple interviews for a job you got, but once you get the job, in theory, there's really no more need to maintain a job search journal unless you have a long-term goal of moving on to another company. But what I'm getting at is you're going to have interview processes. Not all of them are going to go great. Some of them are probably going to go pretty bad. You're going to make mistakes. If you get any feedback, document that, write it down so that one, you practice on improving on that. And two, you can then later on in your journal, go back and see, are you improving or are you continuing to make the same mistakes? Whereas if you weren't keeping track of that, then there's a good likelihood that you could keep making the same mistakes because even though you might think that you're going to remember it for the next one, you more than likely won't. That you're going to hear me say this frequently. Networking is not only finding the next job you want, but networking also entails your relationship that you build during the hiring process. Track those people that you come in contact with. They might not hire you today, but they could be a resource for you down the road. Stay in contact with them. What you really don't want to do is forget those that you dealt with, because who you talk to and remembering who you talk to shows your commitment to attention to detail, preparation and that you really care about that company, as opposed to maybe you get hired 6 months from now, 8 months from now, whatever it is, and then you go in for your first day or you meet with the CEO, somebody higher up, and you can't even remember the name of the person that you talked to during the interview process. Something as little as that could have an impact. Most importantly, though, as you come out of an interview, if there's anything that still needs to be done on your part, any additional follow-up, any documents that you need to get them, any subsequent interviews, whatever they put on you to do, make sure you're keeping notes of that and make sure that you're completing it and who you're getting that information back to. How this ultimately works best for you, though, is going to depend on probably your age. Somebody like me, I'm a little bit old school. I like paper. So I might want to do an actual notebook where I write notes. Somebody younger, somebody more technologically savvy may go towards an electronic format. But figure out what's going to work best for you and stick with it. You may even say, I might start out with just a notebook, but find that you want to do a spreadsheet down the road, or you just want to create an electronic version that's easier to keep on your phone so that you can easily access it. Find out what works for you by trying it. But regardless, whatever method you use, just create a job search journal and maintain it. It's going to help you stay organized. As I've already said, that it would be quite embarrassing to not only forget the name of the person that you apply or were talking to during any of the interview processes, but how embarrassing is it to reapply, especially for the same job at the same company? And now because all you're doing is this shotgun effect of application, and not really tracking which ones you've applied for. So all of these little things that point towards your attention to detail and how committed you are to the process can be saved by simply creating yourself a note in a notebook on a document that you've applied for job X and on the date that you applied for it. Now, if the job application process closes and you didn't receive a response back and it goes back up again and you can clearly see that it's a new application process, obviously reapply again if you're still interested, but maybe make something a little bit different. Maybe make your resume a little bit more different than just the changing the date. Maybe you'll have the opportunity to update your resume or the cover letter, something to make it a little bit different than the first version so that if somebody is monitoring it on the company side, it shows that you are actually paying attention, that it's a different application process. You'll be able to track your progress. As daunting as all of it is, maybe being able to just look back through a notebook when you're feeling like all things are just going south, just look back in the notebook. Look at the interviews that you've done. Look at the applications that you've submitted. See where you've gotten in previous hiring processes and take that as a win. Something just to keep you motivated. Like, look at everything that I've already done. It may be small, but it's going to be something that will just keep you moving forward. The other thing too, especially if you're in that transition, you've already transitioned out and you're struggling or working at finding a job, this one little thing will be a routine that you might do each day. And routine is what's going to keep you moving forward. You don't want to just kind of wake up each morning and be like, oh, what do I kind of feel like doing today? You know that each day doing your journal is one piece of your regular routine. And keeping that routine going from when you were in your previous job is going to help you stay on track and not, I always use this term, but not become just a couch potato, just waiting for things to happen. Create your routine, which is going to create your drive moving forward, which is going to then foster a greater opportunity that you're going to find that next job. At the bottom line, though, just remember, don't be haphazard in the process of applying for these jobs. Create a system that not only allows you to track the jobs that you've applied for, but to track those that you've interacted with through their process, and most importantly, any information that you've received back as to any of your deficiencies, any of your strengths, anything that you need to improve upon. And then in the next process, make sure you build on the strengths, try to improve the weaknesses, and try to do something that betters you from the previous process. For the medium range group, mentor your replacement. We've all been in that situation where we've taken over for somebody else. And I would imagine that all of us have had an experience where the person leaving gave us good information and equipped us to be able to do the job seamlessly. I think back to my time with my FTOs when I was first learning to be a cop. And inevitably, you're not going to be able to give them all the information for every single possible scenario, but a good training officer or somebody who wants that person to succeed is going to try to impart as much information as possible. So always operate with the mindset that you want to leave it better than when you got there. You always want to put yourself in the person taking over for you's shoes. And if you were in their shoes, you wouldn't want to just sit there and flounder and have a million questions. Yeah, there's no, again, like I said, there's no way to answer every single question, but for the most part, the person taking over for you should be able to slide in and keep moving forward with minimal questions. So don't leave that person just kind of hanging in a lurch. Like, hey, peace out. I'm out of here. Good luck on figuring it out. The manuals that, they're in the top drawer or whatever. This might be a touchy subject because I know right now with many organizations, there are some toxic environments. But at the end of the day, you still should aim to make and leave the organization better. So if you know you're going to be transitioning out, it's not just making the person who's going to replace you better and not have to, feel like they're hanging by their fingertips on a cliff, but also you want to look back and know that you did everything you could to make the organization better. You may not be able to change the entire organization, but the piece of the pie that you had a direct hand in, maybe that's a little bit better. And maybe the person coming behind you learns from you and continues that ripple effect, and maybe they keep working to make it a little bit better. Along that same lines, take some comfort, especially if you're in a very high-speed team. And I know this feeling of you feel like you don't want to leave because, man, I'm a good leader or I'm a good team member, and if I'm not here, that piece of the chain is going to be, I'm taking out a strong piece of that chain. Maybe if you know that you've trained the person taking your spot well, maybe you'll get a little bit of comfort to say, all right, it's still going to keep moving, smoothly. It's not going to stop moving. The one thing you can guarantee is when we walk away, that train keeps going. But if it makes you feel a little bit better to say, hey, at least the person that I've put in my spot on that train is up to speed, then maybe you'll feel like that train will keep moving a little bit better. From the flip side, though, training up your replacement leaves you with a positive lifeline. So if for whatever reason there's ever a chance that you need to reach back to your previous organization, yeah, you're going to have your friends that still might be there. But what about the person who actually took over your job? Especially if you need some information from that specific position, who better to go back to than the person who's doing what you were doing previously? And how do you think they're going to respond to you if you were like, hey, peace out, the manual's in the top shelf, or if it was, hey, here's what I know, here's the majority of the scenarios that I can put you in, I'm going to try to give you all the information that I can. Most importantly, if you need anything or have any questions, even when I'm gone, ask me. I'll help you in any way I can. So think about how leaving the organization, leaving that chair better or as best as you can have a benefit for you when you transitioned out. And like I said previously, just think about how you would feel if you were put in a position and the person that you were taking over from basically told you to pound sand and just kind of said, hey, figure it out. How this benefits you, though, going forward, and how you can take mentoring somebody or training your replacement into your job search, most important, it improves your reputation. Somebody looking to hire you is more than likely going to reach back to not only your previous company, but they may even reach back to the person who's now doing your job. What do you think they're going to say about you? Do you want them to say good things or do you want them to say bad things? If you really think that you don't care what they say, I would question on how serious you are about wanting to find your next job, because you're going to want people to say the best they can about you. So think about who you're leaving behind and what they would say about you if somebody came calling. On top of that, by training the person who's going to replace you, it shows your commitment to success of the organization. You could go into a hiring process and say, I am committed in every facet of a job or a company. And here's a prime example. The person who's now doing my job, and please feel free to call them. I did everything I could to bring them up to speed before I left, but also even after I was leaving, I made sure that they had my contact information. And if there was anything that I could do to help them, I'm there for them, as opposed to saying, oh, I'm gone. I'm no longer with that organization, so I don't care. It shows your commitment to success for the overall success of the organization. It furthers your ability to grow. It furthers your ability to grow as a leader. Putting somebody in a position to take your job and having to step back and allow them to grow improves you as a leader. It shows that you cannot, or you are somebody who doesn't micromanage. You're somebody who has that ability to impart knowledge, but also allows that person below you to come up on their own and develop their own style. It shows that you're a team player. It shows that you just don't look out for yourself. You're not only worried about how does my current position benefit me? Because no matter what, we are all spokes of one wheel, and that one wheel is the organization. And are you operating in a mindset that it's just about you, or are you operating in a mindset that you're trying to make everybody around you better within that organization and being a good team player? And are you carrying that forward to the next company that you want to work with or work for? It teaches you how to not only how you communicate, but it allows you to evaluate your communication style. Does the information that you present to somebody, is it clear? Is it concise? Does it convey the necessary message? Or do they keep coming back to you with 10 more questions or 100 more questions? Gives you something to say, what's my deficiency in how I'm imparting information? The other thing it allows you to do, though, from a leadership perspective, is when you step back and give somebody the ability to take control, you kind of gain that 30,000 foot view on a situation. And when you're not right in the middle of it, you start seeing the periphery and how just subtle changes, subtle pivots, subtle, drawing a blank on the word that I'm thinking of, but stepping back allows you to detach and see the whole situation. And that's going to improve you as a leader, because you're there for that person that you're mentoring and you're training, but you're removed so that you can see maybe what the next person's doing, or how the decisions of the person you're training impact another unit or another entity that maybe when you were simply doing the job, you didn't have that perspective. So it increases your ability as a leader to detach and see the whole picture, or at least see a bigger portion of the picture. I've hinted at this previously, but to wrap this up for this section, knowing that the person who's coming in behind you is competent and you've done everything you can to give them all the tools they need to succeed is going to give you the confidence that things are going to be left in good hands. And it'll make it easier for you. This may sound odd to some, but it'll make it easier for you to step away because you have the confidence to know that train's going to keep running smoothly. For the long range group, you've got a lot of time in front of you. Have fun today. These jobs are stressful enough. Don't add to it by getting so wrapped up in the minutia that you just forget to have fun. At minimum, if you can learn to just let things kind of slide off your back, always take it for the fun things that we are allowed to do and able to do in these jobs, it's going to improve your overall mental health. Take the opportunities today to do all the cool things. Whatever you feel is the cool thing to do with these jobs. Every one of us is different. Each of us is going to think something else is cool, but take those opportunities. I would say, though, don't get stuck in one spot. Try something today. Get good at it. Obviously, some positions require a longer duration to really get proficient at them, but challenge yourself down the road. If you've been at it for a bit and you've pretty much done all that you can with that position, it may still be really fun, but is it benefiting you long term when it comes to your transition? And is everything that position you're doing going to benefit you when you walk away from these careers? And I would say if it's not, if there aren't transferable skills, then as much as I want you to have fun, I also want you to think about what other fun things can you do that might have a better benefit to you long run when you leave these careers. I would imagine that any of us, the more fun we're having, the happier we are, the better our mental health is. However you want to wrap it up, we're definitely going to be more engaged. We're going to be more engaged to our administration. We're going to be more engaged to our coworkers. We're going to be more engaged with the people that we interact with, as opposed to if you're in a perpetual bad mood because you can't see past the forest for the trees and all you're fixated on is the negative aspects, then reposition yourself. Find a way that you can look at the job from a different perspective and make yourself as happy as possible. If there's a point where you're truly saying, I'm just flat out not happy, then that might be the time where you say, I'm not going to ride this career out until my retirement transition, and maybe I'm going to start working on getting out now, as opposed to continually allowing your mental health to deteriorate by simply riding it out till a future date on the calendar. I've already mentioned this. We've all worked, I mentioned it to a degree, we've all worked with those people who are completely disgruntled. They come to work every morning and they're the sandpaper on the job. They rub everybody the wrong way. They have something negative to say, probably about everything that's going on or everybody they work with. Nobody likes to work with that person. So don't be that person. Don't be the person that when you come to work, everybody's like, oh, so-and-so's here. Do what you can to be the person that people look forward to working with. And I would imagine that each of you has an example from your career, either currently or previously, of the people you like to work with, and that one person, those two people that you were just like, man, if they weren't here today, they called in sick, might be a lot better day. So think about who you are in the scenario and don't be the sandpaper. For the younger people, now granted, I'm tailoring this tip to those of you who are probably pretty early in your career and got a while to go, but every day somebody new is coming into this job. And so along that same lines of not being the sandpaper, lead by example. Somebody new walking in the door, if their first encounter with an employee is the negative Nelly, what impact is that going to have on them going forward? Imagine you were just coming on the job today and the first person that you interacted with was just the grumpiest old salt you could imagine, as opposed to somebody in your shoes who might have a little bit of seniority, but you've still got a very positive attitude, and you try to look and show them by example, hey, look beyond the BS, look at the bigger picture, do what it takes to make this job fun. So lead by example for the new guys. And to wrap this up, you've got a while to go. Do you really want to make it just about counting days on a calendar? Or do you want to make it a career that you can enjoy, that you can make the most of, and that when you get to the end of this ride, you are in the best headspace you can? These jobs can eat us from the inside out. Don't add to it by not allowing yourself to try to find the happiness or the fun or the excitement that comes from these jobs, because it's there. You just might get mired in a lot of the garbage going on if you allow yourself to. When you get to the end of this ride and you are that person who is the Grumposaurus, good luck in finding a job. You might think that you're going to hide that, but you're not. By being happier, by looking at the things that we can do that are fun, you're going to have a better career. You are going to be better in the long run. Think of it from a personal aspect. How can you enjoy your career but be the best for you? You're going to be nicer all the way around. No two ways about it. So it depends on where you want to focus your attention. Do you want to focus on the BS, or do you want to focus on the bigger picture and maybe move on from the little things? I don't know. I don't know what your organization is currently like. I don't know how toxic the environment is. But just take that evaluation and see, are you making little things bigger, or are you at a position where maybe you need to consider leaving, not necessarily the job, but maybe leaving the organization? I don't know. That's up to you individually to figure out. By being more positive, you're inevitably going to network more. And if there's any one word that's probably going to repeat itself through many of these episodes, is the importance of networking. It's getting your name out to other people. But in turn, by being happier, by being a nicer person, by being less pissed off all the time, you are going to be more open to other people wanting to network with you. So it is a two-way street. Yes, you need to put yourself out there, but if the person that you're putting out there doesn't welcome other people, is not engaging, and doesn't make other people feel like, oh, I'd really like to talk to that person, then the two-way street isn't going to happen, and nobody's going to reach back to you. So be mindful of that. As I've said previously, these careers take a lot from us. They offer us so much opportunity to have fun, to do cool things, to make ourselves very marketable for the skill sets that we bring. What we don't need to bring with us, though, is 20 years, 30 years of disgruntledness and 20 or 30 years of sandpaper. If you already find yourself going down that path, talk to somebody. Figure out a way to get around it, because it's not going to benefit you personally in the long run. So in closing everything up, a short range group, create and maintain a job search journal. Stay front sight focused on getting that next job, and do it with purpose and precision. And tracking everything is going to help you stay on target. For my medium range group, mentor that person who's going to be taking your seat. You're just in that seat temporarily. There's nothing that says that that seat is yours forever. So allow the person who's going to come in and sit in there behind you to be as prepared as they can, and take confidence and solace in knowing that you left the organization better than when you got there. And make sure that that person feels like you did everything you can to help them succeed. If at nothing more, then be a resource and an ally to them even when you leave. And for the long range group, man, have fun. These jobs allow us to do so many cool things. Take advantage of it. But at the same token, make sure that you're enjoying the job for the job. And if you find that you're getting into a position where your mental space is all negative, then either evaluate you, and do you overanalyze, or do you let yourself get mired in the bullshit? Or is maybe your organization too toxic and you might have to consider a job jump? But most important, just have fun. Be safe, have fun. As always, thank you again for taking the time to listen or watch. Please like, follow, subscribe, all of those keywords, the podcast. Share it with anybody that you think might be interested, who might benefit from this information. Tell me what you want to hear or what I could cover in these episodes. And I'll catch you on the next one.